Ethan brushed his fingers over the strings of his guitar. He wasn't playing any song in particular, but the sound of the instrument helped him feel a little less lonely these days. He tried not to slip too far into the image of the sad old man, but he wasn't getting any younger, or any happier. Sure, he was content enough. His boys had grown up and settled down, and it made Ethan think that maybe he might like to do the same. The years after Sarah died had been a blur of misery, of putting one foot in front of the other while being pulled in 10 different directions. Raising 3 boys on his own had been a challenge, but added to that, the responsibility of running his own business had made having a social life a near impossibility. Or maybe he was just bad at it, Ethan mused, quietly plucking the strings. It wasn't that he was antisocial. He couldn't be. He owned a diner. He knew half the town because he'd served them at one point or another. Hearing snippets of their lives was unavoidable, but that didn't make them friends. And it wasn't as though Ethan had invested a lot of time, or any, in trying to put himself out there in a romantic way. For years, he'd just been focused on his kids. Taking care of the boys and making sure they had everything they needed was more important than Ethan's love life. Now, though, his kids were grown and had left the nest. Even Taylor, who'd held on the longest, had finally moved out. It wasn't that he was loud, but Ethan had liked knowing Taylor was downstairs. The house felt huge and empty now. Ethan put his guitar aside and glanced at the clock. Somehow dinner time had snuck up on him. The diner was closed that day, which was one of the first changes he made after losing his wife. He'd quickly realized that he couldn't work 7 days a week and raise 3 boys by himself. He cut it down to 5, which had tightened his finances at first, but he managed to scrape by. He'd never be a rich man, but he'd managed to keep 3 kids dressed and fed and a diner running, so he must have done something right. Ethan pushed himself to his feet and wandered into the kitchen. The fridge held the same food as it had an hour ago when he'd thought of making something to eat, but then had decided that nothing looked appetizing. The freezer wasn't interesting either. He thought about ordering takeout and having it delivered, but the very thought of sitting alone in front of the TV eating food from a cardboard box made his blood run cold. The only thing left to do was either go to bed hungry or go out somewhere to eat. Clearly, leaving the house won out, and Ethan hopped in his truck. He had to let it warm up for a couple minutes to clear the windshield, but then he was off. As it usually happened when he wasn't in the mood to sit around at home, he ended up at the Anchor, a bar with a subtle nautical theme that was miles from any sort of open water.